So would one way to encapsulate what you're talking about is that startup studios have perhaps a more sophisticated approach to early validation of a problem and a solution versus perhaps the validation methodologies used in other ventures, either accelerator incubators or just independent ventures that are being developed. Whereas maybe in those cases, a validation, a more intense and rigorous validation methodology either wasn't used or wasn't available to validate that idea. And perhaps the increased success rate of startup studios comes in that validation phase. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely a fair assessment. There's another interesting way to think about this, which is currently in startup world, 80 cents of every dollar that gets spent goes into the hands of either Facebook, Amazon, or Google, spent on ads, which means startups are spending an enormous amount of money to grow very quickly. But that growth is really just user acquisition. And the point of that is because the venture capitalists, the investors behind those startups, are basically saying, grow, 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 grow at all costs. I don't care how much you need to spend to get there so that you can go raise your next round. And if you raise your next round, if I'm a VC from my friends down the street, that means that your valuation is going to go up, which is going to make me look really, really good to my investors. So I can go raise my next fund and take a higher fee. But at no point in that equation did that ever indicate that this startup has found good product market fit, or that this solution, the product that they built, is what the market truly needs and wants. All it really said was that we just spent more money getting people to click on our ads and download our app or buy the product. But are they coming back and buying it again? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And so the interesting piece with studios is, yes, they have a very sophisticated playbook in order to validate truly that if we're going to put something out there into the world, it's not just going to simmer off after 90 days or 9 months. It's going to continue to grow because we've found product market fit. And the people that are running these studios, and they know what they're doing. They've been there, done that. They're successful exited founders who have found product market fit multiple times before. It's a science at this point. It's just a formula.
All right, so I think we're starting to get an idea of what a studio is, some of the processes that are utilized, some of the players that are required to usher these processes through. What do you see as some of the more widely used models for setting up a studio?
Yeah, there's 3 that I think are most popular right now, and there are, I mean, look, one of the funny lines that's been said many times over the last year has been, yeah, so Jake, I've talked to 200 studios now, and they all look different. And I've talked to 500-600 studios now, and the one thing they all say to me is, we're a little different. Well, yeah, that's because there's no one way to do this. They all just pick their own flavor and go with it. But I look at that data and I realize, actually, we can go one step higher and say, okay, sure, you all have your own colored jerseys and socks and shoes and hats, but at the end of the day, you're still a soccer team, and you're still a football team, and you're still a baseball team. And all 3 of you are still sports teams. So I look at this as, there are 3 very popular types of studios. Number 1, the traditional studio model. This is where you, like everything we've been talking about so far, small core team of GPs who have a significant track record in building startups come together, they raise a fund, that fund size can vary, and they build their own startups in-house with one entrepreneur at a time. And they usually do about 4 startups a year, traditional studio. The second type is more the studio accelerator hybrid, where they'll run a cohort-like approach, just like accelerators do, but with founders, not with companies. So we'll bring in maybe 5 or 10 or 15 founders, and in 3 months, help them go from nothing to now you have a startup. And some popular ones right now are Antler, Entrepreneur First, Humans in the Wild by Human Ventures. And we're seeing a few others pop up as well. Love this model. And then the third most popular, that is, I believe, one of the most lucrative, but the slowest to rise. And Tommy, you're going to love this one. It's the corporate studio. So they may either be internal to a corporate or a separate company like Prehype or Founders Factory or High Alpha, where they work with corporates often many different corporates, to help them basically build their own new ventures, new product lines, unlock new revenue streams, and they would split the cap table. And so the investors in the startup that would come out of the studio are the corporate. And so that's the high level of the most common three. One of the goals right now, at least in my world, is to figure out what is the ideal structure and model for each of those three. If you're a corporate studio, do it like this. If you're a traditional studio, do it like that. If you're an accelerator studio hybrid, do it like this. I don't know if we can get there, but I'm on a mission to find out if we can or not. I'm mapping out basically what's the current state of studios. I'm mapping that out in a new white paper. And in creating that outline, I recently realized, wow, we've come a really long way, even in the last 15 months.